Sir Michael Caine's story begins far from red carpets and film premieres. Born Maurice Joseph Micklewhite on March 14, 1933, in South London, he grew up in a working-class family that understood resilience better than comfort. His father worked long hours as a fish market porter, and his mother took on cleaning jobs to help keep the household afloat. Their home was small, their means modest, but there was pride in the way they carried themselves. The London of his childhood was shaped by uncertainty, and like many children of his generation, he learned early that security was never guaranteed. Yet those early years gave him something more valuable than luxury: perspective. He understood the worth of a pound, the importance of showing up, and the quiet dignity of hard work. Decades later, when the world would see him as an icon of British cinema, he would still speak with affection about those early days. They were not easy, but they formed the backbone of the man he would become. Steady, grounded, and unapologetically authentic. Growing up, during the Blitz, World War II left a permanent imprint on young Michael. When the Blitz struck London, sirens and shelters became part of daily life. Like countless families, the Micklewhites endured nights of tension and displacement. Evacuation meant separation, and separation meant confusion for a child trying to understand a world at war. Those experiences did not harden him, they deepened him. He would later reflect that living through wartime London gave him an emotional vocabulary he carried into every performance. Fear, uncertainty, hope. He had felt them all before he ever stepped onto a stage. War also strengthened his bond with his parents, particularly his mother, whose determination left a lifelong impression on him. She embodied courage in quiet ways, teaching him that endurance was not about noise or bravado, but about persistence. The resilience he displayed throughout his 7-decade career can be traced back to those early lessons. The chaos of wartime childhood did not define him, but it quietly shaped his emotional depth and steady resolve. Leaving school and finding direction. Like many young men of his background, Caine left school at 16 to help support his family. He took on a series of ordinary jobs: clerk, messenger, assistant, anything that would bring in a wage. The work was practical, but it did not quiet his imagination. Even then, he sensed there was something else waiting for him. After completing his national service, which included time in the British Army during the Korean conflict, he returned to civilian life, searching for purpose. Acting was not an obvious path for someone with his accent and upbringing, yet it began to call to him. He joined amateur theater groups and small touring companies, learning the craft from the ground up. There was no glamour in those early days, just rehearsals in drafty halls and performances for modest audiences. But the stage offered him something priceless: possibility. It gave him a space to transform experience into expression, and slowly, steadily, he began to believe he might belong there. Choosing the name Michael Caine. Every legend has a turning point, and for him it came with a simple decision. Discovering that another actor already carried his birth name, he needed a professional identity, quickly. While standing near a cinema marquee advertising the Caine Mutiny, inspiration struck. "Michael Caine," he said, testing the sound. It felt right, strong, memorable, unmistakably British. The name stuck, and with it came a subtle transformation. Yet behind the new name remained the same grounded young man from South London. He never attempted to erase his roots or soften his accent to fit expectations. In fact, what some once saw as a limitation became his defining strength. His voice carried authenticity, his presence felt real. The new name opened doors, but it was his unwavering sense of self that kept them open. The phenomenon of Alfie. If Zulu introduced him, Alfie made him unforgettable. Released in 1966, the film captured the spirit of a changing Britain. Caine's performance as the charming yet conflicted Alfie Elkins resonated deeply with audiences. He broke the fourth wall, speaking directly to viewers with wit and vulnerability. It was daring, intimate, and ahead of its time. Suddenly, his once criticized accent became iconic. He embodied a new kind of leading man, flawed, self-aware, and human. The role earned him international acclaim and his first Academy Award nomination. More importantly, it allowed him to prove that honesty could be magnetic. He did not attempt to romanticize the character's shortcomings. Instead, he revealed them with nuance. Alfie cemented his place in cinema history and showcased his ability to balance charm with introspection. A career of reinvention. The decades that followed were marked by remarkable versatility. From thrillers to comedies, dramas to epics, Caine refused to be boxed into one persona. Films like Get Carter revealed his steely intensity, while lighter roles showcased impeccable comedic timing. When critics occasionally questioned his choices, he answered not with defensiveness, but with work. Reinvention became his quiet specialty. In the 1980s, performances in Educating Rita and Hannah and Her Sisters earned him Academy Awards and renewed admiration. He once remarked that longevity in acting requires humility, the willingness to adapt and learn. That philosophy carried him forward. He collaborated with directors across generations, proving that experience and curiosity could coexist. By the time he entered the new millennium, he was not merely a respected veteran, he was an institution. Love, partnership, and stability. Behind the camera lights stood a deeply personal story. In 1973, he married Shakira Baksh, a former model and actress he famously pursued after seeing her in a television commercial. Their partnership became the steady foundation of his life. Together they built a home centered on loyalty and laughter. He often credits her with grounding him during the whirlwind of fame. Their daughter Natasha brought further joy, and Caine also maintained a relationship with his elder daughter, Dominique. Over time, family dinners and quiet evenings became more meaningful than premieres. He has frequently spoken about how love provided perspective when success threatened to overwhelm him. Stability at home allowed him to take creative risks professionally. In interviews, he describes marriage not as dramatic, but as enduring, based on respect and patience. After decades together, their bond stands as one of his proudest achievements. Awards may line shelves, but companionship filled the spaces between them. Friendship and loyalty. Throughout his life, Caine cherished friendship with equal sincerity. Among his closest companions was fellow actor Sean Connery. Both men rose from modest beginnings to global fame, and their shared background created mutual understanding. They supported one another through triumphs and setbacks, often sharing laughter away from the spotlight. Caine has spoken warmly of their camaraderie, describing Connery as both formidable and kind. Such friendships mattered deeply to him because they connected him to his origins. In an industry known for competition, he valued loyalty. He believed that success felt hollow without people who remembered you before it arrived. These bonds reminded him that behind every celebrated career is a network of encouragement. Even as colleagues passed on, their memories remained part of his story. For Caine, friendship was not an accessory to fame, it was its anchor, grounding him in gratitude and shared history. Facing the realities of age now in his 90s, Caine approaches aging with candor and grace. Physical limitations have slowed his pace, and he has spoken openly about stepping back from acting. Rather than framing retirement as defeat, he describes it as a natural transition. He once said that knowing when to exit is as important as knowing when to begin. Though health challenges accompany advancing years, he focuses on what remains possible: conversation, reading, reflection. The camera may no longer command his days, but storytelling still fills his thoughts. He expresses appreciation for longevity, recognizing that reaching such an age is itself a privilege. There is no bitterness in his tone, only realism and humor. He jokes about growing older, yet beneath the humor lies acceptance. Legacy of honesty and strength. Sir Michael Caine's legacy rests not only on awards or box office numbers, but on authenticity. For over 70 years, he portrayed characters with clarity and emotional truth. He never disguised his accent, never abandoned his roots, never pretended to be more refined than he was. That honesty resonated across continents. From Alfie to Alfred, from soldier to mentor, he embodied resilience. His journey proves that greatness can emerge from modest beginnings when paired with discipline and heart. Younger actors look to him not simply for technique, but for example, how to endure, how to adapt, how to remain human in an extraordinary profession. As he steps back from the spotlight, his influence remains luminous. Strength, as he once suggested, is not about standing tallest, but about continuing to stand at all. And through decades of change, Sir Michael Caine has done precisely that. Steady, sincere, unforgettable.